Brian Shaw is the 4-time world's strongest man and one of the most impressive strength athletes of all time. And on April 18, 2026, he will face off against none other than the German bodybuilder Leonidas Arkona, who has risen to the top of the armwrestling world in a previously unseen tempo, holding record-breaking numbers in several armwrestling lifts. Hello again, Blackbird here. In this video I'm going to be doing the match prediction between Brian Shaw and Leonidas Arkona, which is set to take place in Cologne at East vs West 23. This match is of very high significance for both athletes, but especially Brian Shaw, as it'll be a showing of whether he has what it takes to reach the top and the elite of the sport. Will Brian reach new levels, or is Leonidas the one to shut down the hype train? Well, let's take a look, shall we? First, I'll break down the frame, size, and overall strength of the athletes. Then I'll showcase their performance strengths and improvements over time. And thirdly, analyze their technique. Finally, I'll combine all the statistics and insights to make a singular supermatch prediction. Let's go. Leonidas Arkona stands at 5'11", weighing around 280 pounds. His biceps measure close to 22 inches and his forearms are around 18.5 inches. He also has a pretty massive hand, and even though the exact numbers aren't widely available, here's a comparison with Matt Mask, who has one of the longest fingers in the sport. Simply said, Leonidas' hand is huge. When it comes to overall strength, Leonidas has consistently shown exceptional feats pretty much everywhere. If we focus on upper body lifts, we can, for example, see a 350-pound cheat curl, a 600-pound bench press, or a strict curl with 258 pounds. He has also done the infamous Devon pronation lift, lifting around 165 pounds, which is around the same numbers that Devon himself has done. These lifts are incredible, and Leonidas is definitely a big boy. But let's see how he compares to Brian Shaw. Brian Shaw stands at a towering 6'7" and weighs around 400 pounds. His biceps measure at 22.5 inches and his forearms at 19 inches. Here we have his hand, again, compared to Matt Mask, and somehow it's even larger, which is absolutely insane, as that would be on par with the hand size of Vitaly Laletin, who probably has the largest fingers in the whole armwrestling game. Simply said, Brian is an absolute monster when it comes to size. But what about his strength? Well, there it gets even crazier. Brian Shaw is literally one of the strongest humans on planet. He has won the world's strongest man 4 times and has held many world records during his career, like pulling an 80,000-pound truck, lifting a 550-pound Atlas stone onto a 4-foot platform, performing an 1128-pound hammer tire deadlift, or also having one of the strongest grips in the world at over 350 pounds of force. When it comes to armwrestling specifics, it is unclear what Brian's numbers are, except for insane grip strength. But judging just from this 90-pound pronation lift, it's gonna be a lot. It's unclear how much carryover strongman has to armwrestling, but the base strength is definitely already there. It just needs to be properly applied. And how much has Brian actually managed to carry over his strength to the table? Well, let's discuss that with the second point, and it's athlete performance strengths and improvements over time. Brian Shaw has committed 100% to arm wrestling in around June of 2024. And at first he looked really clunky at the table. It seemed like he had trouble finding his comfort spot, I would say. He was unsure when to pull, where to push, where to move. It seemed like it was simply a huge problem for him to move correctly, like a proper arm wrestler. But just recently I've watched him practice with Chance Shaw, and here he finally looks so much better than he did before. It still looks a bit awkward at some points, like here we can see him putting the shoulder forward even though he should be fully committing back, but it's definitely hugely improved from when he started in 2024. It seems to me like Brian has always felt better in the pressing forward motions than having to pull back and top rolling. And he had to relearn to really go back and attack outside. Due to that, I think that he has become quite versatile. If he truly has at least gone close to mastering the top roll, then he can very well transition outside. He can also go for a very deadly press. I think his press is gonna be his strongest weapon. Another problem I think for Brian was that he absorbed too much information at once. You know, we had Devon at his gym, we had Todd Hutchings, we had so many guys, and everyone, you know, explains a bit differently, has a bit of a different psychology for the sport, works a bit differently. It probably created unnecessary confusion. When it comes to the competition side of things, Brian Shaw has had two super matches, one against Eddie Hall and the second one against Brendan Allen. He has won both of these matches, although it wasn't easy for him. The first fight against Eddie Hall was a crazy battle, with both athletes coming from the strongman background, both being new in the sport. Although Eddie Hall was only 3 months in the sport, Brian at least 6 months at that point, it was an absolute war. More technical analysis on that later. The second match was against Brendan Allen, also a strongman. Brendan also gave Brian some trouble, but in the end, Brian managed to adapt. It's really unclear and difficult to judge what Brian Shaw's strength improvement in arm wrestling has been over the year and a half. The most impressive footage, I would say, from his videos was him pulling against Philip Larson, where over time he actually forced Philip to really go 100%. And it was even at the end, but it's unclear how tired Philip was, how fresh Brian was. You know, there are so many factors. I'm sure if it was a super match, then Philip would likely very easily win. There's also some comparison that could be found with Devon Larratt. First time they pulled, Devon wasn't trying like at all, and the second time they met when Devon was practicing. You know, when Devon allowed Brian to get into his positions, into that press, Devon really had to try to stop it, and I'm pretty sure that for once he didn't even manage to completely. He got torn through. So with Brian, there is a lot to figure out, and hopefully we'll get some more information in the upcoming weeks. Now let's look at Leonidas Arkona. Leonidas Arkona had his first high-profile super match in September of 2023 against Larry Wheels, who he destroyed. He managed to beat him quite easily, and I would say that was like the peak Larry Wheels. A few months prior, he had a super match with Sandris Shedis, and he actually managed to give Sandris a bit of trouble when Sandris let Larry get into again in his position, and that's no small feat to move Sandris. Later, Leonidas also beat Schoolboy, which is also a crazy feat, as Schoolboy, you know, grew up in arm wrestling. He is a seasoned arm wrestler, but Leonidas's peak power was simply too much. The general overall strength, the back pressure was too insane. Then even a more impressive showing against John Brzenk, where John won only thanks to being smarter on the table. Because John eventually lost all the fundamentals. He was stretched open, his wrist was cracked, his pronator was likely about to crack, but he found a hole with a flop press, and that's gonna play a huge part in the later technical analysis. And last but not least, Leonidas went on to face Devon Larratt himself, and that match broke Leonidas. In his own words, Leonidas said that he prepared so difficult, so much, so hard, that he thought he had like a 50% chance. And after he realized just how huge of a gap there is between an elite arm wrestler and a person who hasn't been in the sport for a long time. After that, Leonidas would stop focusing on arm wrestling. He would gain some weight, and now he's just coming back, with Devon saying that he feels even stronger than he did before.
I pulled Leonidas, I'll tell you, he's stronger. He's stronger than I had him.
Now, I just talked about all of these matches that took place, but I haven't really gone into detail. And let's talk about them now with technical analysis of each athlete. So, judging from the matches Leonidas had, he possesses an open arm top roll, a king's move, and a hook. Everything in his arsenal is quite strong, relying on a lot of musculature, on overall upper body strength. If we were to try to find some weakness, then the main problem I see with Leonidas is that he pulls with his arm angle too open, and that leaves him vulnerable to a flop. Even when Leonidas wanted to apply side pressure, you can see he's really opened up. For example, against Schoolboy, when we wanted to go to the side, he was doing like these awkward open arm surges. And this was exposed again in the match with John Brasink. Leonidas was way too open, and John, as a seasoned arm wrestler, found this weakness, was able to go against it. Schoolboy also actually managed to flop Leonidas. I would say that's the main issue. Now let's look at Brian Shaw's technique and how it counters Leonidas. I already pretty much gave the spoilers with Leonidas, because Brian Shaw has a long forearm. He is good in, or getting better in, a posting top row position. He is very high, has great containment, grip strength, a pretty decent wrist, and what I see as crucial is that he has very good engagement with his shoulder, able to go into a super strong press. So let's pit both athletes' techniques against each other. If we go top roll versus top roll, I feel like Leonidas' top roll won't be enough to go through the wrist and get on the pronator of Brian Shaw. Brian's arm, for me, it seems like it's too large, there's too much wrist going on, there's just too much lever. I could also imagine Leonidas utilizing his King's move, and against that, Brian is likely gonna go into a flop, and I think he's gonna flop Leonidas if they get there. There's also the factor that Leonidas may have trouble slipping, although I believe he's going to be able to, and they're going to go into the stripes. With Leonidas' second technique, the hook, I think that's going to be the main weakness of Brian. We haven't really seen, or I haven't at least, really seen Brian Shaw efficiently hook, and if Leonidas manages to get a deep enough grip and set it, I think it's going to be really awkward for Brian. I'm not sure if he can, or he knows how to effectively commit his shoulder. So, like, he has a press, but I'm not sure if he really knows how to get into a deep hook. Both athletes aren't fully technically proficient. They both fully aren't used to staying in certain arm wrestling positions and, you know, adapt on the fly. If one arm wrestler figures out the weakness of the other, it will be a problem for the opponent to adapt. And that's exactly what I think is the main factor which is going to decide the match. Adaptability. You know, there are so many variants. We can go top roll, King's move, flop, King's move, hook, low hand hook, as both athletes continuously try to adapt to each other. And with all of this in mind, let's go for a final prediction, round by round. Round 1. Brian and Leonidas both set up for the top roll. Off the go, Brian gains central control and he starts going to the side. Leonidas tries to stretch out into the King's move. He actually manages to crack Brian, but Brian transitions forward, he gets the shoulder in and gets a flop. 1-0 for Brian. Round 2. This time, Brian again sets up for the posting top roll, but Leonidas switches the technique. He gets a deep grip and off the go he forces it inside. Brian is awkward in this position. He is unsure what to do, where to go. He holds for a few seconds but eventually gets pinned. 1-1. Round 3. Another switch of techniques. Brian this time sets up for the low hand, but Leonidas sets up for the post. And off the go, Leonidas manages to apply very good back pressure. He gets the wrist of Brian, gets it to the side and eventually pins him. 2-1 Leonidas. Round 4, I can imagine going flop versus top roll. I can imagine Brian really doing everything to set up forward, get the shoulder in, and I think that if he does, Leonidas is not going to be able to stop it, so we're going to go 2-2. Fifth round, Brian sets up for the flop again, but this time Leonidas manages to get it inside and he pins Brian from there. So I'm going to go 3-2 for Leonidas. In conclusion, predicting such a match on a round-to-round basis is pretty much impossible. But it at least shows what styles are possibly gonna take place in the match, where it's gonna go. All the possibilities I talked about, like the top roll versus top roll King's move, low hand, hook, flop versus hook, flop versus top roll, I see that it's possible all of these positions are gonna take place in the match. And overall, I think I'm going 60-40 for Leonidas. I think Leonidas has been in the sport for a bit longer and he has a lot of natural talent. He's really strong and I think he has a bit more awareness on how to actually move on the table. I think Brian is still more clunky. He isn't as adaptable as Leonidas. I think Leonidas has a better table IQ. The raw power is likely gonna be quite similar. Even though Brian is larger, that's also a factor. It's gonna be probably quite close. You know, I could be totally wrong. Maybe Brian has just gone above and beyond, but I don't think he's that strong yet. I think Leonidas is gonna give him problems, and it's likely he's gonna win. You know, it all really depends on how much Brian has managed to improve. If he actually managed to level up significantly since his last matches, how much progress he basically made. Well, I'll guess we see on the 28th of April. And that's everything from me for today. Thanks a lot for watching.